Look, the best places to live in Utah is a subjective question. It depends on so many factors based on lifestyle and job opportunities, proximity to the airport or the outdoors. There's so many factors that come into play when considering where the best place in Utah for you might be. If I were moving to the state of Utah in 2024 or beyond, I'd live here. And in this video, I'm going to go through a list of the places that I think are the top places where I would consider making that move if I were moving to Utah myself. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Scott Steele, and I absolutely love helping people discover all things Utah, including Utah real estate. And if this is the type of content that resonates with you, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button for more videos, but it also helps me reach more people as well. All right, so let's get started. The top locations that I would consider making the move to if I were moving to Utah myself. Let's get the first one out of the way. That's Salt Lake City. There's so many cool things happening, not just in the city, but around the city. And I love the vibe that comes with a lot of the neighborhoods that are in Salt Lake City. In fact, my all-time favorite neighborhood in the state of Utah happens to be in Salt Lake City, and that's the neighborhood that's called Yellcrest. It sits just on the east side of the city, and I absolutely love it there. It is the top place that I would consider moving to if I could and wanted to live in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City's got a lot happening. It's a city that's really changing. The skyline is changing. The culture is changing. The vibrant community within the city limits is definitely changing, and a lot is happening in and around Salt Lake City. Tons of new restaurants. We've seen approximately 30 new restaurants each and every month. Ever since the pandemic really settled down, we've seen a massive amount of growth in and around Salt Lake City. We have new developments happening in the sports and entertainment scene with the recent announcement of Utah's NHL hockey team to join alongside the Utah Jazz right in the heart of Salt Lake City, which along with that comes the redevelopment of 3 to 5 city blocks right in the downtown area that really connects and makes it walkable from one side of the city all the way through that section as well as through City Creek. So it's kind of cool to see the city kind of grow up. We've also seen buildings going up that are high rises. We've seen the new tallest building in the state of Utah in the Astro Tower being completed right now as we speak. A lot of new things happening and things that are going to come as well. The 2034 Olympics. It was recently announced that Salt Lake City will be the host city for the 2034 Winter Olympics. It's also on the radar to hopefully get a Major League Baseball team and the development of the new power district just west of downtown Salt Lake City for the new Major League Baseball team. So there's a lot of things happening around Salt Lake City. It's definitely a place that I would consider, and I think the number one reason why I would consider it is because the restaurants are the best. It has a really high concentration of some of the best restaurants you're going to find in the entire state of Utah. So depending on where you're moving from, that could be really appealing, but Salt Lake City's definitely on my list. All right, next up, this one's no surprise either. This is Park City. Park City and the surrounding areas offers so much for so many different people. And of course, it's become the most popular tourist destination, especially in the winter months when Sundance Film Festival is here, but more importantly, the ski season is fully underway. We have some of the greatest snow on earth. We have ski resorts all over the place, and they're very much attainable in terms of it's a quick 15-20 minute drive and you can be at a ski resort. And although Park City has grown tremendously and experienced its own growing pains, it's the areas around Park City that are really booming right now. If you look to the east of Park City, across Jordanelle Reservoir, there are developments happening all the way up north from Park City as well as down south into the Heber Valley. So Park City would definitely make my list. It's a different lifestyle. You're right in the thick of things in terms of being in the outdoors. And as we talk about regularly on my channel, Utah is the mecca for outdoor enthusiasts. And that is a really good reason to want to live in and around Park City. All right, next up on the list, I'm really biased on this one because I happen to live here, and that's Daybreak, and that's in South Jordan. Now, South Jordan and Daybreak sit in the southwest quadrant of the Salt Lake Valley. I think it has a lot to offer, and there's a reason why it's been one of the top master planned communities in the entire country dating back nearly 2 decades. And so Daybreak has a lot to offer in terms of lifestyle, community, events, and a really good reason to want to raise a family there. So there's so many things happening in Daybreak specifically that make it a massive draw. I think a lot of the people that I talk to that are considering making the move to Utah, whether they have Daybreak on their radar or not, it at least brings up a really valid conversation if you are considering considering making the move into the suburbs of Salt Lake City, Daybreak is something you'll at least want to explore. Now, it definitely has its pros and cons. I think one of the biggest cons is that the homes are tighter together. In other words, if you're looking for that large lot, that large space, you're not going to find that in Daybreak. But the community, the lakes, the trails, the swimming pools, the amenities, the parks, all of those things are certainly the things that sell Daybreak for so many people. Now, I've done other videos just talking about Daybreak. In fact, I've got another one coming next week where I address some of the biggest negatives about Daybreak as well. So if you're considering making the move to Daybreak, stay tuned, subscribe below, and check out that next video that's coming so I can really explain both the pros and the cons of Daybreak. All right, next up, this one might be surprising to a lot of locals, but to me, it definitely is not. I think this is one of the biggest up and coming areas in the state, and that is Ogden. And maybe I'm not talking about downtown Ogden per se, but the areas around Ogden to the north and to the west and even to the southwest are booming, and they're amazing areas. I'm talking from Kaysville and Syracuse up through West Haven, west of Ogden itself. These are phenomenal areas that we're seeing a ton of infrastructure being planned and built, along with the new developments that are coming. So if you're looking for more opportunity along the Wasatch Front where you can still get to Salt Lake City within 30 to 45 minutes, there are some really great opportunities just in the Ogden metro area itself, and you likely get more for the money if you do purchase real estate there as opposed to Salt Lake County or even down south in Utah County. And so if you're looking for that suburban lifestyle, but you still want the urban amenities close by, the Ogden metro is definitely up and coming. All right, next up, I want to talk about Sandy. Sandy sits just south of Salt Lake City in the Salt Lake Valley. It sits on the east side of I-15. It's really close to where I'm at right now. I'm actually in Cottonwood Heights, which is just north of Sandy right now at my office, but Sandy has a lot going for it. Most of Sandy was built out from the 70s through the 80s and 90s, and there's some infill development with new construction, but for the most part, there's a little bit older homes in Sandy. But the really big thing that it has going for it is its proximity to, in my opinion, the greatest ski resorts that are close to the city, and that is right up Big Cottonwood and Little Cottonwood Canyon, but also the Wasatch Mountains just get more majestic as you move south in the Salt Lake Valley as opposed to the north end. The mountains down here right next to Sandy are absolutely breathtaking. If you live in Sandy, you have some of the best views of those mountains than anywhere along the Wasatch Front. I would argue that it's absolutely the best place to be if you love having those beautiful mountains right out your window. The other thing that Sandy's really well known for, it's a family-friendly suburban neighborhood, but it's got great schools as well. In fact, the top school in the state is right there in Sandy, but it also has things happening. It has a downtown area, so to speak. It has the home of the Major League Soccer team here in Real Salt Lake, along with that stadium. It also has the Health Center Theater, which is a very popular attraction. And so there are things happening, whether it be the amphitheater or the soccer stadium. All of these things give really good reason to want to live in and around Sandy. I think Sandy is one of those next areas up and coming where a lot of redevelopment, renovations, and that type of thing is really going to take hold, especially on the eastern side of Sandy. So when these homes are 30, 40 years old, you're going to see a lot of people, it's already happening by the way, a lot of people buying these homes, renovating them, expanding them, making them better. And there are some really cool neighborhoods in Sandy as well. In fact, one of the top master planned luxury communities is in Sandy, and that's Pepperwood. If you don't know anything about Pepperwood and you drive through for the first time, it's definitely a very unique experience. I've had clients moving here or considering moving here from other states who have specifically sought out and wanted to look at properties just within Pepperwood because of all the things that it offers. All right, next up, I've talked about Salt Lake County. I've talked about North up in Davis and Weber counties, and I've talked about Park City out in Summit County as well. It's time to go south down to Utah County, and we're going to talk about Lehi. Lehi is the next place on my list. There's a lot of things happening with respect to why I would want to live in Lehi. Number one, it has such a good infrastructure that is currently being built out. The challenges right now are huge because Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain, which sit directly west of Lehi, have grown tremendously fast as well. And so that infrastructure in and around Lehi has gotten really bottlenecked right now while they're building out the new freeways. Once those freeways are built, Lehi will be a central location to hop on several different freeways and really get anywhere you want. So in 3 to 5 years, it's going to be dramatically better from a traffic perspective than where it sits right now, but at the heart of the tech scene here in Utah as well. In fact, when we call things Silicon Slopes, that area right through Lehi, that's what we're talking about. That's the place where a lot of these jobs are really hyper-focused. And so that means it's a great place for tech professionals. It's a great place for families, people in healthcare with the new new primary children's hospital there and other hospitals as well. There's a lot of things happening in Lehi that is also going to attract more things to come. And I just love that it's situated all the way on the north end of Utah County, and it makes it really easy to get into Salt Lake City. It's only about 30 minutes away, which is really nice. So if you have a concert to go to or a sporting event, or perhaps you need to get to the Salt Lake City International Airport, it's actually really well within reach. And I think that makes Lehi really appealing. All right, next up on the list, Saratoga Springs. It's right next to Lehi. I get a lot of feedback from people that are considering making the move to the Salt Lake City area, and Saratoga Springs is kind of that last place in terms of the furthest location away from downtown Salt Lake City where most people are truly reasonably considering making the move to. And so that's why I put Saratoga Springs on the list. It's got some great things going for it, including the views of Mount Timpanogos and the Wasatch Mountains reflecting across Utah Lake. And so that's a really good reason to want to live there in and of itself, its natural beauty. But another thing is it's really up and coming. And just like I described, with the infrastructure that's happening in Lehi, that's really greatly affecting Saratoga Springs as well, because it's running right through the heart of Saratoga Springs. It's kind of a hot mess right now in terms of traffic. If you're trying to get into Saratoga Springs at 5 or 6 o'clock p.m., it can be a little bit painful, but that will soon be changing. And so what are the best parts about Saratoga Springs? Well, I would argue that it's one of the best suburbs. I think it's a phenomenally clean and new and up and coming place. So if you're looking for a newer community, Saratoga Springs will definitely be more appealing. And so some people choose to fly out of the Provo airport instead of the Salt Lake City International Airport if they're making a trip down to Arizona, for example. Whatever the case may be, it's really centrally located. So depending on where you work, whether that's Salt Lake County or Utah County, it can be a great place for you. All right, last up, the last place that I really wanted to talk about, places where I would consider moving if I were moving here right now, and that would be Draper. Draper is all the way on the south end of the Salt Lake Valley, just adjacent to Sandy, actually, in between Lehi and Sandy. Now, Draper is a really great place to live because you have all the amenities of a large enough city, but you also have Salt Lake City just about 25 minutes away. And so Draper really has a lot of that going for it. Now, one of my favorite parts about Draper is called Suncrest. It sits up on top of the mountain that straddles both Utah County as well as Salt Lake County. And when I've driven my clients through those areas looking at properties, it's a different lifestyle. You're up above the inversion for the most part during the winter months when we have that bad air, but also it just feels like you're in the mountains. The trail systems are right out your backyard. The mountain biking, the hiking, it's just a really cool place to be if you're trying to be right next to those mountains and still have all of the amenities of being in the city. It's right there. So Draper has a lot going for it. I think this is a little bit more of an expensive place compared to some of the other places along the Wasatch Front, but if you can reasonably afford a property in Draper, it definitely could and should make your list to consider. Ultimately, the best place for you to make the move to Utah is going to depend on so many factors: your preferences, your lifestyle, your needs, and all of your preferences. It also will greatly be influenced by your job and your commute and everything else that comes with just life in general. And sometimes making these decisions can be tough. And that is precisely why we are here to help you and guide you. My team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. So please reach out to us. You can find our contact information down below. And if you want to learn more about the state of Utah and life here, check out this video next. And until next time, thanks.